Yay, here we are, everybody. We are playing with human design and astrology with Diana Kale Kennedy and River Plum. And they have a workshop coming up this Sunday that's called To Thine Own Self Be True. And it's finally, I'm so excited, the collaboration of human design and astrology. And we thought that we could just have like a little sampling of what they do, like in the chocolate shop, a little sample of what it tastes like so you can discern that of course you want to jump into it. And the what we'll do today is they're actually going to read my chart. I've been working with both of them quite extensively so that they can show you what it's actually like in real time, right guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, you got it.
Awesome. With that being said, I'll go ahead and share Kelle Rae's astrology chart. Oh, just one moment. There we go. And of course, there. All right. So if you're new to astrology, this is a simplified birth chart. In the 9-week course, we're going to be looking at the symbolism and meaning of the primal triad, which is the sun, the moon, and the rising sign. Now, I've kept in some other planets that are strongly configured within Kelle Rae's chart. So this is essentially a map of the night sky the moment she was born. And so we have the setting sign, the rising sign here, which is the ascendant. And this is where the sky meets the earth. So at the moment Kelle was born, if we were there with her and we went outside and looked to the eastern horizon, we would have noticed that Cancer was rising. This shows her the interface between her inner world and her outer world. You can think of the rising sign as the mask that we wear. It is the filter that distills our essence in all of our day to day interactions. So for Kelle, we could say she wears the mask of Cancer, the mask of the great healer. So, Kelle, how has healing been an important part of your life story?
Oh my gosh. To put it briefly, I mean, healing, personal healing, but also teaching healing, right? So when I was little, I was very sick. I was thought to be an epileptic. I had multiple grand mal seizures, and I would say that that's probably the biggest thing that comes up for me, other than some other things. But that, as a young child, I was healing that, and my mother always believed that I was working it out of my system and that I wasn't an epileptic. And so I believe that my inner healer activated at a very young age. And as far as, my work, my whole life's work as a massage therapist and a rolfer and in Nia, it's all about self-healing. It's all about doing our own inner work in order to teach it, self-mastery in order to teach healing, and movement is medicine.
I really hear your chart come alive with words like self mastery and self healing. Um, Kelle has Saturn right on the ascendant, and Saturn can show challenges and difficulties, particularly early on. The first house, which she has Cancer on, is the body. And Saturn on the first house shows problems or challenges around health and self healing as a way to actualize in this lifetime. So I hear that coming through very strongly. And it sounds like you've chosen self healing as your methodology in your career as well. Your chart has very distinct themes of self healing, as well as leadership and community. So if we move our attention to Kelle's sun sign, it's in the house, the sixth house of health. Oftentimes, it's challenges within health that prompt us to find new and unique ways to take care of our bodies. And so, Kelle, with her early childhood experience, again, finding self healing as a pathway to self actualization. Now, Kelle, when she was born on December 18th, was born in the month of Sagittarius. Sagittarius, as an archetype, is concerned with broadening one's horizon. You can think of the sun sign as both who you are innately, but also where you're going. What are you growing into in this lifetime? And with Sagittarius, the sign of her sun, we would say Kelle's here to live many lifetimes in one. She is here to collect experience. And she does that through cross cultural communication. She does that through higher learning and expanding her philosophies. These are all themes that are related to the Sagittarius archetype. So, Kelle, I know you lived abroad in Brazil for a while. I would love to hear your experience with finding yourself in such a unique and culturally different environment.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yes, I lived in Brazil for 5 years, and that's where I started doing Rolfing and started teaching Nia. And it really was in Brazil that those livelihoods came about. And they were definitely stimulated right at the time that I moved to Brazil. And I did not speak Portuguese. Talking about cross-cultural communication, I kind of had to learn my own, I had to learn the language, but also learn my own language of communicating, which for me was through my hands and through Rolfing, through just immersing myself in the culture and sometimes backing away and sometimes moving forward, but also trusting myself enough to teach Nia with the Portuguese that I knew at the time. And then when I stepped in, I was completely embraced and grew a very large first Nia community in Brazil. And that was a lot about me trusting myself and communicating what I loved and kind of just stepping in and saying, let's see what happens, and trusting myself.
I love that. This brings up themes around your natal Mars. Mars, as part of the psyche, is the part of us that asserts ourself, that goes out into the world. Mars, for Kelle, in Aries, which is very strong, has a very pioneering spirit, particularly in the realm of community. So, traditionally in astrology, the 11th house is our circle, it is our community. And she has this Mars, this dynamic, assertive, passionate leader, opposite her moon, which is the most private part of herself. And her moon is in the fifth house, which is the house of pleasure, the house of sport, the house of hobbies, things that bring us joy and creative expression. Her moon is in the sign of Libra, which is inherently a relationship oriented sign. So she really is here to be in relationship and to go deep and to cultivate a community of provocative thought leaders. Mars is naturally provocative. It's very dynamic, very strong, and with that lunar capacity, that nurturing ability, she's able to cultivate community wherever she goes in a very dynamic and leader, in a very dynamic, gentle, tough love, but leadership way. That's that Saturn on the ascendant there. That tough love of, I know you can do one more. Enough, enough, enough in her move it classes. So Kelle, I would love to hear your relationship with the part of you that's the community builder, the part of you that charges community wherever you go.
Oh my gosh, I'm just shaking my head and laughing. And Diana, when she does my human design, I know that she was shaking her head and laughing too, that it's so true. Um, Definitely the part that is nurturing, accepting, inviting, all invitation, no expectation, do it your own way, follow your own body's way, building a community via acceptance. And that's always been my kind of guiding light of, even small details, things that will make people comfortable, whether it's how I welcome them in the room, or how the lighting is, how the music is, where the flyers are placed for them to easily access it. All those things I think about in creating a community that feels accepted walking in the room as a whole being. And I think it's also the way I am, that, I'm kind of a jokester, or I'm a little bit outlandish, like you said, a little bit of tough love, but a little bit of, you don't really think that about yourself. Come on, let's get on board here, that kind of thing. And so I think I really do build community with that sense of assertive acceptance, and humor, and so far so good.
And
Uh,
playfulness, Kelle Rae.
Yes, that moon in Libra in the fifth house. The fifth house is the house of play, of creative expression and play. And you cultivate a community of that. And so it's really beautiful to see your chart play out in this way. You talk about making the environment conducive to community. And that is the Cancer. That the Cancer is the mother, right? So mothering the studio, getting things just right, and really creating the safe container. You know, Saturn brings form. Cancer on its own is a very emotion driven sign, but Saturn creates the container for which the water to flow. Or you can
Mm.
think of it like the riverbank. It creates the form that allows the river to flow. So I love hearing your chart come to life like that. This is just a snapshot of Kelle's chart. I've taken out the other planets, but I really feel like it gives us a good sense of who Kelle is and how she is living out her purpose masterfully in this lifetime. And I would love for Diana to share her perspective and her expertise from a human design perspective. So I'm going to turn that over to Diana here.
Thank you, River.
You're welcome.
Wow. Wow. Yay.
Hey, everybody. So much fun for us to get together and do this. So I wanted to show you, so here is one view of a human design blueprint. And just so you can connect astrology, there's complexity in the image. However, all you need to notice is here's the astrology wheel inside. And you could say that what you're seeing here is the field, the celestial field that River is so wonderful at articulating and interpreting, so it's meaningful and relevant in your charts. And so, but for now, I'm going to take you to, we're going to hone in on the blueprint, the human design blueprint. So, don't worry about what's happening over here. This is just locations of the planets. Yes. And what we want to be looking at is this 9 chakrad blueprint. And for now, all I'm going to say is that in the course, we'll be looking at that the 5 chakra system, like our cats and dogs, mammals like Sufi Kelle, is a 5 chakrad energy being. And we once were, until there was a mutation in the species and the development of the frontal cortex, and we became 7-centered for thousands of years. And then in the 1890s, along with the discovery of Uranus, the planet Uranus, we began a mutation, a transformation in this species from a 7-centered energy being to a 9-centered being that comes down here related to what we call the solar plexus. Don't worry about the anatomy. We know we usually 7-centered. We end up the solar plexus in the center above the navel. But for here in this blueprint, this center represents the solar plexus, emotional intelligence, and we're going to be looking at these 3 5-centered, 7-centered, and 9-centered energy system and how that relates to what is happening in our life and in our aura now. And so when I look at Kelle's design, the first thing, or anybody's design really, the first thing I'm looking at is how much white do we see? How many chakras are open and white, which is all about how the energies of the world penetrate our field. And then how much is colored in, telling us that we have unique genetic patterns that are, you could say, like frozen in time, except they're not frozen. They are held in a particular frequency, as River talked about, at our birth. And human design also talks about at our birth and 88 days before our birth. So we have a few little differences in terms of how human design is looking at the birth chart versus astrology, but it is all integrated. So when I look at Kelle's chart, I first say, oh, Kelle, out of 9 chakras, You have 4 chakras that are open to becoming very wise about the ways of the world and relationships unique to the heart. Kelle has a really open heart here. You can see no color, no flavor, which means she is here to really know the ways of the heart in all ways that it works. And she's totally open in the emotional intelligence solar plexus. So she herself is here to walk the middle path in terms of emotions. She's not a highly emotional roller coaster herself. However, she's here to sense and take in and become wise about how the emotional ocean that we're all living in functions. And then she is open in the splenic center. So she is open to becoming wise about what it means to be safe and secure and intuitive about survival in her life. And then she's totally open in the inspiration center. So you could say that Kelle is channeling any kind of inspiration possible. It is coming in, and then it's coming into her frontal cortex, and she is working with it in a very particular way. All inspiration that comes in, Kelle begins to work with it and then give voice to it. And so what River was speaking about, being highly creative, if any of you have noticed how Kelle seems to be a font of wisdom and stimulation of creative ideas and workshops and ways of teaching Nia. Every move at class is different. So Kelle, what would you like to say about how the channel of curiosity, the frequency of curiosity and the stimulation of ideas shows up in your life?
Again, I'm laughing. It's definitely clear to me that I'm open on the top, open for the stimulation of ideas, especially in Nia when we talk about spirit realm and we talk about information coming in and inviting it in. A long time ago, I made a deal with spirit that I would always listen, which means I made a deal that whatever spontaneity or channeling came through, I would say yes to it instead of doubting that source that is now a well oiled relationship in the way I teach. I generally choose to teach things that I'm on edge about. If I'm comfortable with it, it doesn't necessarily inspire me. And so workshops that I create that I'm a yes for generally are something that would require me to get some more self-mastery, to study, to bring forward in a new way. And so that's what lights me up. And yeah, a little bit of the edge walker, but it does come from the inspiration from outside and spirit and trusting that.
Exactly. And so if any of you, a lot of you have been in Kelle's classes and her Move It classes, I know for me, I continuously say to Kelle, are you sure you didn't have any of that choreography in mind before you started the class? Right. And so with this, when somebody has this, a whole channel here, if somebody has a whole channel, then usually the theme of that channel is so specific to the person. And as long as you're staying true to yourself, Kelle, you cannot help but bring that forth. And so it's not just for you, though. This is where other people who are open in this area, they are drawn to you to receive that gift. Right? And so if we go down the rest of the chart, Kelle and I have spoken about this particular channel here, that is Kelle's primary theme for her inner authority, where she has to stay tethered so that her leadership shows up as if by magic, or her skills and talent show up as if by magic. And this is the channel or the theme of rhythm and flow. And what her chart says, anybody that has this channel, they must live and work inside of their own rhythm and flow. So going to a job where a job is demanding of you, Kelle, to live in somebody else's flow, 9 to 5, or will not work. The whole company would have to be pulled into your rhythm and flow for it to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything you'd like to say about what it's been like for you, you already knew this about yourself.
Yes.
And I think the language of human design has allowed you to go deep into it and trust it, maybe a little more than you did.
Yeah, absolutely. I did already know that. And then when human design and you put language to it, it made sense over the when I recapitulate my life and when I've made the right moves, like, you know, for example, River talked about me moving to Brazil. I was so in my rhythm and flow, even though I was so scared, you know, spent all my money, packed my bags, and went there 25 years old with not knowing one soul. That was me in my rhythm and flow. And so I've known that even in small examples, but when I've gotten into places where I've felt stuck or I've had fear or there have been those kind of like security issues, and I've talked to you about it, you remind me, no, just stay in your own rhythm and flow. And then I'm like, oh God, is it that simple? You know, but it's not necessarily only self-serving, I don't think. I think it's for the greater good of whatever I'm doing. And so I've learned that that's a lesson for me, just to come back to it and then kind of intuitively, I don't know if you would say, you know, like that channel, intuitively read what my own rhythm and flow is when I get out of bounds, and or I just call Diana and she'll tell me.
Yeah, and you usually you know it. You might know it. Always trust it for wanting to be a good leader, wanting to be a good studio owner, wanting to be a good person, right? Outside feedback things that are not in your rhythm and flow, you know, we can get distracted away with somebody else's emotions or their heart, you know, communication about, well, what about this? And then even false guilt can come into the mix. But where we are defined is what we call it, where you see the color. This is representing, like I say, a pattern, a frequency all the way to our genes. And so where we are defined, we are not here to be moved. We are not here to be changed. We are not here to be like anyone else. This is what's consistent in us. And this is where we tether. So all the themes of the color in your chart speaks to, as long as you rest into these things that you know are true about you from experience, not just because the chart is telling you, then everything works. Now, I know Kelle really well. We've been together a long time, gone through a lot of experiences. And this one particular channel of and theme of being in her own rhythm and flow, this is a highly magnetic frequency of all the different areas of the blueprint, highly magnetic. And Kelle has demonstrated that magnetism and who she pulls and how many people she pulls into her rhythm and flow, because they are a yes for it. We are a yes for it. And then sometimes, though, if people don't know that this is your inner authority to just stay in your rhythm and flow, if they don't have that same rhythm and flow, that channel, which most people want, it's totally unique to you. They might have the channel. It's not going to function the same way. They could feel that pull to do it your way, as if you're saying or demanding, you got to do it my way. You're never demanding. As River pointed out to some of the things in your astrology chart, you are actually one of the most unattached humans. You are all about other people being in their body's way, living their life, being inspired their way. However, this energy can be interpreted as if you want everybody to do it your way, and that's not true.
Thank you.
Right? And so and you have said to me many times around the studio, I'm somebody that demonstrates When you say, hey, Diana, you want to take the mic in a class? And I say, nope, right? That I demonstrate that sometimes your rhythm and flow is not my rhythm and flow. And it's totally okay to be invited, no expectation, and to say no. And when people around you know that about you, all your relationships get elevated.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's freedom for everybody to acknowledge you and recognize you for your shining light and your gifts, knowing that they have their own and they don't always have to meet.
Yeah,
Make sense? So
absolutely.
that's a little taste. There's a lot more in this amazing chart, but for now, this is just a little taster. And so for people in the nine week program, we will be investigating what does give you your inner authority. What is the language of that place where you can stay tethered and trust yourself in a world that is pressurizing you in all your open spaces to be something else? And astrology, River, if you'd like to say something about that, has the same but different language for that practice.
Yes, from an astrological perspective, your birth chart is a seed. It is the seed of your life and the unfolding of your uniqueness. The sun, all the planets revolve around the sun. The sun is your center, it is your source of vitality, it is your unique spirit. The moon, which reflects the light of the sun, is that deep primordial sense of soma, our immediate reactions, how we respond to life. It is our emotional body as well. And the ascendant shows us the path. How do we get there?
Mm-hmm.
Based on the sun, the moon, and the rising sign. And this will look different for everybody. The ascendant changes 1 degree every 4 minutes. So these both human design and astrology really are systems of honoring uniqueness
Mm-hmm.
and helping you reclaim that sense of inner authority so that we don't feel pressured to be someone we're not. From an astrological perspective, it also shows us where we might find roadblocks. What obstacles might we encounter on this seafaring journey we call life? So, for example, Kelly with Saturn there. Saturn early on manifested as illness and having to overcome that illness and to actualize through the challenge of self healing, which has led her on her journey to helping others self heal. So I am so excited for this course to bring these two unique and very dynamic systems together. Astrology has been around for thousands of years. It has shaped our culture, it has shaped our etymology of words. The word consider, sidereal, means to go with the stars.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, wow.
I hope you consider coming to Diana and I's event through Studio Nia Santa Fe to go with the stars, to go with your unique alignment. I'm just so excited. How about you?
I'm excited.
Well, it's been a long time in the coming, and I hope all of you that are watching this can relate to how I was feeling or how I do feel when they read from each chart and they're saying you probably feel this way, and then they have me reflect. It's not just this one-way street of this is you. It's a back and forth, and it always has me reflect on myself, and that's why I love these two systems. Is it's a reflection and stopping and evaluating, recognizing myself within it. And it has more to do about me than the map. And they're both so good at that. I mean, I call him my therapist, but it's very personal, and it's such a unique opportunity to have both of them really diving so deep with each person that will be in the course. So if you do want to step in, please do. I've been, like I said, pulling them in for a while. So the recordings will be up the entire time of the course. So if you can't make it, they'll be up for the entire 9 weeks plus a little bit longer so that you can do that. And StudioNiaSantaFe.com, click events. It's right there. Sign up, and we want to play with you, right, guys?
Exactly. We want
Yes.
to play.
9 weeks dedicated to discovering and uncovering your uniqueness.
Discovering and uncovering your uniqueness.
Mm.
And just so for everybody out there, we will be closing the course this coming Friday, which is, help me, Friday,
The 18th.
the 18th, right? So you have a few more days to step in, and we'd love that.
Thanks for my reading, you guys.
Anytime.
Always, always fun, Kelle Rae.